All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Them's Fightin' Words podcast with Ali and Dan. Ali being myself, obviously. Um, so for this episode, this is the actual first episode, and if you just came from the teaser episode that I made a while back, welcome back. I'm here with Dan, and we've got a new co-host with us. We'll introduce him in a bit. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for the late upload. This was supposed to be out about a week ago, but we've had some issues with the scheduling and we ended up having to do it a week later. But regardless, we're back and I'm here with our newest co-host, Trevor.
Greetings.
You want to introduce yourself a bit, man?
Well, I am a 22-year-old retail worker. That's already probably way too much information. I don't really know what else to say about that. However, I'm just here for more banter, so I think that'll be beneficial.
Yeah. So for this episode that we're doing today, we're gonna be talking a bit more about NFTs. Yeah, the hot new craze has been going on since I think last year around July.
I want to say about middle of last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of the three of us, I want to say I've done the most research. So that makes me an expert. However, I've only done like one step further of research compared to everyone else here. So.
Yeah.
Which includes watching a terrible cartoon on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that'll be something we have to talk about. I figure
Yeah.
like when we talk about it, it's not so much going to be factual as we'll just like listen. We'll hear something and then opinionate about it, and I think that'll be fun. So
Yeah.
I can assure you most of the opinions are probably negative.
Yeah. If you guys want to like watch it like by yourselves, to those who are listening, that is, just it's called the Red Ape Show, and if you want to see how horrible it is for yourselves, I recommend you do. And it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just,
So,
I think bad
what
is
it-
an understatement.
what it's about is it revolves around the concept of NFTs, which are called non-fungible tokens. They're
Mhm.
basically, I would say, an add-on to cryptocurrency, in that you can spend your cryptocurrency on non-fungible tokens, which take the form of like artwork or music or things like that. You purchased it, and then you own the specific code for it, which is stored on the blockchain. To my understanding, I'm admittedly I'm not like the foremost authority on this, nor am I very well involved in cryptocurrency. As a matter of fact, I actually put $100 into Dogecoin. I didn't sell when it was big. I could have made like $200. So if anything, I'm like less than less experienced. In fact, I'm prone to making bad decisions when it comes to cryptocurrencies. But even then, I'm not very well involved in it.
First rule of financial stability is to have fun.
The second rule is no Russian, or I guess in this case, no crypto.
Go for it, bros.
Yeah, it's like I don't know anyone here that like I know it's definitely a thing here, but I don't think the cops like not NFTs, just crypto too much. Because I remember seeing a video actually of like the local police department just basically driving over a bunch of crypto miners. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, cryptocurrency, like just because of the sheer energy consumption, just for the sake of posterity, it's good to
Bad.
state just for this here. It's very bad on the planet, energy consumption wise, because it's going to consume a lot of energy and output, lots of like. Well, this is what I've heard. I haven't quite really researched into it. It's something to opinionate about, but
Right. And like cryptocurrencies are one thing, but like NFTs are like
it's a very useless addition to the whole thing.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like, man, the crypto mines, just touch on that is like, bro, I just look at those pictures that people are posting of like the farms, and they're just like, there's a comical amount of GPUs in there. It's like, bro,
Yeah,
like
and
the big heist.
yeah, and like with all like the crypto mining stuff, it's like you can't even buy like a graphics card at a good price anymore because they're all just really expensive now because people are using it to
Yeah.
just like farm cryptocurrency. It's really hard for people to get like to make like decent gaming computers.
Yeah, that's something I was like thinking about earlier. It's not even like it's not even like an abstract consequence like a lot of things are. It's like, oh, over there they're out of toilet paper. Oh, that's a bad thing. But over here I have plenty of toilet paper, so it's fine. It's not like an abstract consequence like that. It's like if I today wanted to go build a computer, which I've been planning to do, I would have to go build a heavily inflated in price GPU because of the crypto market, because they process all these. To my understanding, I think they just like they run like a lot of processes on the GPU. Is that right? To like,
I guess
like
I
how?
guess so. I'm not too like knowledgeable about like the technical part of like
Yeah,
how it works, but like I know it's used for like
I,
just
I, from what I've heard, like very basically, it's like, okay, they generate, they process and calculate transactions on the blockchain, and doing this rewards them with like a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of a Bitcoin or something.
right.
But
It's very
that's
little.
what I think it is.
Yeah, it takes like an insane amount of like processing power to just like generate like say a single Bitcoin.
And even then, you're not like necessarily generating a single Bitcoin. That's like the
Point.
product. It's the product from like doing something else. It's like, oh, here's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just so much effort for just something like I don't know.
I feel like
At
my
least for
mind.
cryptocurrency, it's like serves a purpose, but just NFTs is like I don't know. It's just really questionable at best.
I feel like
The
my
way,
inexperience.
man.
Oh, go ahead.
Interestingly with NFTs, like I had this conversation on a drive with one of my relatives recently, who's a little bit older, and like they'd barely heard about crypto or NFTs. They'd heard of crypto because that just hit the mainstream eventually, but NFTs are like the new thing. And I mentioned that they are kind of dumb to me. I can see the appeal, but they inevitably, I feel, are gonna make money, especially if corporations are backing it now. It's getting to that point.
Hmm.
Who knows,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Stan Lee
Oh,
NFT, bro.
oh yeah. We gotta talk about the
Devastating.
Stan Lee NFT. Although I feel like my inexperience on the topic is probably gonna like give way to some degree of controversy with my opinions. But
I
that being said, like I'm open to a difference of opinion. I'm very hard on the fact that I don't think.
I think they're dumb.
Yeah,
I just
like
I'll just go out there and say it.
Like, what
I would
exactly
say
is a
I'm
Stanley NFT? I don't think I've heard of that yet.
So basically, the big name behind a lot of the Marvel comics, Stan Lee, had
Oh,
like
Stan Lee. Oh,
not Stan Lee, like
oh okay,
not like
okay.
the Stanley
Whoops.
Parable, but like Stan Dash Lee.
I
Yeah,
see.
but
Yeah, that was
yeah.
awful.
So Marvel just went out and was like, okay, we're gonna make NFTs out of his characters now. It's like
yeah.
that's kind of what I knew. I'm pretty sure they're gonna start making like VR Jordans for the metaverse and stuff with NFTs, and like it's gonna
Oh,
be something. And
I think it's worth reiterating that like the NFTs, they come in the form of like a specialized like code on the blockchain, right?
uh-huh.
From what the research I've done is like you own like the directory to that like piece of code,
Yeah.
which is hosted like on the blockchain and all that. So hypothetically speaking, right? If there was some like solar flare apocalypse or something, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like there's no technology, but you still have like cold hard cash and all that, right?
Yeah.
You put all this money into something that's stored digitally, and when the digital aspect is gone, you put all this money into what is essentially nothing. Well, what literally is nothing. Like the meaning is very arbitrary because it's something we created digitally,
Yeah.
and then something we pay for digitally with all these buttons and pressing things like that. I know that's very like Luddite of me to say.
you're right though. I mean, to me, they hold virtually like their value is purely assigned,
Right. So
and it's like based on pure like dependency on technology. Like without that, it would be
And what's really messed up is that like this part I actually read up about. So when you buy an NFT, you don't actually own like the IP rights to whatever that like the
right.
drawing of an NFT.
yeah.
Like you
It's
don't
not even
actually own
avatar.
it. You just own like the link to it.
Yeah, and like I mentioned that like to my relative that was like,
And it makes
people
me
think it's the
wonder
image
like
side.
yeah. And it just makes me wonder if like the celebrities that promote this kind of stuff like are aware of that when they like have these NFTs.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's really messed up. It's just like
It's like ooh monkey.
Bunny monkey.
I guess it's kind of
See,
like when people buy like the Mona Lisa, you know, like they don't they can't move it from where it is.
Yeah.
Well, one thing to consider is like so you take something like gold or something, right? Like gold, titanium, like very like precious metals and things like that that are naturally scarce. They're common on a cosmic scale, but like for Earth, like you have to do some digging and all that stuff. There's a lot of effort put into acquiring
There's like
these
actual
minerals,
scarcity.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an actual scarcity in that they're hard to find, hard to acquire, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, there's lots of effort into acquiring these things, and like there's a whole sort of industry about it, right? Like precious metals and stuff. That's a big thing, right? Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But compared to NFTs, it's like what they do to like create artificial scarcity is in the instance of things like there's like the Red Apes, for example, or like the
Right.
I was just thinking about like basically, so they take like images, right? You have your base image, which is a picture of a monkey, and then they add modifiers to the image, which are randomly generated, right? So maybe he's wearing a blue shirt, maybe he's wearing a red shirt, and all these variations are different NFTs, different codes of the blockchain. And the scarcity is that, he has a very rare chance of spawning with laser eyes. It's a very rare chance of generating this NFT in this edition with laser eyes. So this guy is like 1 in 1 million. He has laser eyes, none of them do. Therefore, he's worth a lot of money, right? But because of how arbitrary it is, it just like strikes me as really, I don't know. I don't know really the best word for it other than
It's artificial.
I look at it and just like, what?
It's like rare skins
Yeah,
on
just-
CS:GO. It's like,
that was one thing I wanted to mention too, because
Yeah, like what
as-
sets it
if
apart
you're,
from like
like, well
CS:GO
involved-
skins?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, if you're well involved with like virtual inventories, like on Steam and stuff, and you like are also well involved with like NFTs and stuff, and you see the comparisons. The main comparison TF2 has is that there's an actual like sort of, well, it's not necessarily artificial in scarcity in that, well, it is like there's artificial weights as to unlocking these things, but and these things do exist in limited quantity, but you're always going to be able to obtain more of these things, right? For an NFT, if it's generated, like, hey, that's it. You generated it, you minted it, it's all out there, and it's all good. Compared to like something in CS:GO, well, I could spend $1 million on like 20 cases, and it's for a chance of unlocking like a really good skin or something. But I can do that again and again and again. Now, there's also there's the moral standpoint of, well, they're just spending a whole bunch of money on what is essentially gambling, right?
Yeah.
You have basically the opportunity to create something, right?
Yeah.
But I guess one aspect that sets it apart is that like there's also like, well, I guess there's already a economy with NFTs, but like there's an actual, like, for some of these things there's actual changes in gameplay, right? Like you can unlock like with some of the crates in TF2, you can like get new weapons and stuff.
Yeah, you can get
That's
like
like
usual and all that.
I had a really good point I was going to make, and I totally forgot about it. I was looking at this earlier. I was reading about the Ubisoft Quartz thing, where they were trying to do essentially the same thing. I guess the main point I wanted to make is like Ubisoft tried implementing what you could well, I guess there's far more integration with like NFTs in video games. There's like integration with blockchain. You have cryptocurrencies, far more than that. It's not quite like TF2 where you can trade. There's like a whole item economy in TF2. You have keys, so you can basically work your way up from literally nothing with like hats and stuff. Like
you don't necessarily have to spend any money. You could just like
Of course, with most things in gaming nowadays, spending money will get you further ahead in that game. But
absolutely
with NFTs, you have to start with money. You have to start with some amount of money. You have to buy something, and then you have an NFT. And I don't think there's quite any place where you specifically trade NFTs either. In TF2, you can like trade different items and different hats, and there's like values and things like that. But with NFTs, like my understanding, which is of course limited, you would be selling the NFT and then making money off of that, and it's like you just kind of like shake your hands in the air.
Right, like I think it's going to become like, if it becomes a standard where they're transferable between different companies, different publishers, developers, etc., then I could kind of see the idea for like interchangeable cosmetics. That goes into like the metaverse thing where Meta's trying to do like a standardized thing.
That's like the other thing
everybody.
I wanted to talk about, like the metaverse.
Yeah,
that's
I have
a whole can of worms that we'll open
yeah.
about later.
Yeah, but I'm firmly convinced that like that's where NFTs are going, is implementation into deeper dive VR.
Absolutely.
And like
I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
that we'll
Facebook is
touch
trying
on
to
that,
do,
I'm sure.
aren't they? Or Meta, as they're
Yeah,
called
that's
now.
exactly what they're trying to do. I have a whole philosophy, like a whole like opinion and vision on that, what that is gonna look like.
And it's not very good, I assume.
You know what
Yeah,
would be like a good cyberpunk setting, or like a cyberpunk? Well, part of like a cyberpunk setting is like you take NFTs, right? But they're linked to like a social credit kind of thing, right? And you have like you have a government given NFT wallet, and you get a random NFT when you turn 18, and it determines your spot in like the social hierarchy of
by
the
at
classes.
random.
That's kind of cool. I like that. Kind of cool, but
I
And
wonder,
kind of scary to
the
think
bigger
about.
question for that is like, if it's an NFT, it's like, is the social standing determined by the government, or is the social standing a thing that just society made? It's like, oh, you got this one that's really rare,
yeah.
and it's like, and it's just it's something that people assigned, and it wasn't even by design of the government. It was just like, oh, hey,
It's completely
you got a rare one.
randomized.
Yeah, you're really cool.
I could see that happening, but
Or like
as-
social.
Imagine if the system just like broke down one day and everyone just got rare ones.
Yeah,
social
immediate
anarchy.
destruction.
It's fun to paint like NFTs and things in like a boogeyman kind of context like that, but I don't think it's really, I don't think that's quite fair, to be honest. Like I know we're poking fun here, of course. I know we're poking fun here, but like that's what I've seen a lot of people do. Is like, oh, NFT's bad, but that's like they're only reiterating the opinions of people who've said, the people who've actually researched.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, like
I
the original
get it.
reason, like it was even like starting in the first place, was like they were trying to give more like power to artists, like to have more control over their work, right, or something like that. Like digital artists
don't
specifically.
I don't know. I don't remember. What I think, in my opinion, is like, I think they're just trying to like find purposes for like crypto and like the blockchain. Like they're trying to find applications, and this one just happened to be the one. But I mean, I think it's just gonna be really boring. Sorry.
If I could describe NFTs and what they're trying to do for like the crypto thing.
Sorry about that. Just had a bit of an interruption. So where were we?
NFTs bad.
Yeah. Yep.
This is Eminem.
This is. I think we're just getting back into the metaverse, I believe. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to save that for a separate pod. That's a really good like subject to jump into for its whole
Could be
another
the
like
next
discussion
one.
of VR. I think that's worth saving for its own because I've got a lot of VR experience now, or at least a decent amount.
I would love to hear this actually.
Yeah,
It'll make for good content.
yeah, it will. But in the terms of like NFTs and like crypto in general, I just think it's volatile. Like, it's one of those things that's really new. It's gonna have a lot of teething issues, and like I mentioned earlier, it's like I do think it's just gonna be like, it'll be very boring. It'll be the same way that like money laundering with art, like just literally just be like a second version of the art market and the art, like the art trade. That's the word, the art trade. I just think it's gonna be that, but digital. And like, while I don't agree that there's like the same value in the blockchain that there is in like real physical like arts, like a Basquiat or like a Picasso or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
it's like that it'll be treated in the same light, just with Zoomers.
Yeah.
Literally.
I think what's like good for the sake of comparison is like what's worth noting is like with actual art and things, you have a very physical thing, and I don't mean physical in that you can like move it around and stuff like that, but I mean like in that you know how the Notre Dame like caught fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, where it's like, well, that's a very historical building. It's susceptible to like
lost.
accidents and destruction and things like that. Once it's gone for good. Those atoms are elsewhere. So
Yeah.
I don't think that so much applies to NFTs because, like, sure you could say, well, a solar flare's gonna knock out everything and it'll be gone for good. Well, that's like a matter of totality, right? If you like, you would have to be very specific to remove. You have to do something extremely specific to remove an NFT from like existence, right? And even then, it's still stored in like cookies and things like that, and dozens of computers. So it's not quite gone forever as something would be like if art were to be destroyed. If art's destroyed, that's gone forever for the most part. Like in any like meaningful form, it's gone forever. But with NFTs, like, oh, I just right clicked it and saved it. I technically have that on my computer. You can't quite forget about it. And that's another thing too. It's like, imagine if you could just like, well, I guess you technically can print the Mona Lisa a dozen times, but if you were to take the actual like physical Mona Lisa and like Star Trek replicate it, and then you have two Mona Lisas. I know it's like brain dead of me to say, but that just seems like the exact thing of that's just like
I mean, yeah,
on the nose.
you technically could just take like the exact like source like material, like the actual thing itself, and just keep it for yourself if you wanted to. It's just like
Yeah, like all
you
the
can't do
people
that
on
with
Twitter.
like you can't do that with like traditional like artwork, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't actually do that. Yeah, no, because that's something that like kind of adds to the value of like actual art and stuff. It's like, oh, you got to
Right.
protect this. That if you're not protecting this, you're not really respecting its value, that sort of thing. But with NFTs, anyone can just right click the image and save it, or download the file, or whatever format it happens to be. And it's like there's I don't really understand what the
Yeah.
value would be then in protecting that, because like if there's value in owning this and displaying it to the world, and someone else can like take that and display it themselves, or display it in their own time, or appreciate its display and that sort of thing. They can just experience it without having to pay for it. What's really the value in owning? That's what baffles me, is because they pay so much money for the NFT, so much money for the code representing the image and all that stuff, right? But if you just right click and save the image, it's like, well, if I want to experience this image and have it available for my own use, what's the difference, right? You know? Like
Right.
I could do all these things without paying for it, and the traction is I don't like technically own the code for it, right? And it's like that's one.
It's weird. Yeah, it's like they're worth like millions, and they just you can just save them for
Right.
yourself from the direct
And-
source.
There was someone who kind of had the same train of thought, whose name I forgot, but I think he created the NFT Bay, where he took like every NFT on OpenSea and basically like all the big NFTs, right?
Right.
I think someone somewhere said it was all NFTs in existence, but I don't really believe the logistics of that. But basically, the bulk of the NFTs in existence, you could say, and it's like 17 terabytes, and he hosts it on the NFT Bay, portmanteau of the Pirate Bay, of course.
Right.
So he has the NFT Bay and that whole sort of thing. It's like that's the big part about me is are they trying to represent NFTs as something rare in that like you own the image, or like that's as a layman, I look at this, I'm thinking, well, what's the point? You know, like what can I do with this? And it's like, oh, well, you have an NFT, you own the code, you paid all this money, you own this very rare thing. It's like, well, what do I own? No, it's some code on the blockchain. Oh, can I see this code? Can I hold this code? It's like, no, you can't do anything because it's all stored digitally. It's like, what's the point? How do I display my ownership? It's like, oh, well, you can take the image and you can have it as a profile picture on like social media, or you have like exclusive access to this episode or something, right? And it's like, what
the number?
You have exclusive access to this song or stuff like that. Well, it's like, why?
Yeah, it's just physically impossible to just prove ownership of something with NFTs. It's just like it's almost like some really elaborate joke that someone thought of, and it's just somehow ended up in reality.
It's like the premium subscription to money and owning something. Owning something. It's like, oh, you have money plus that's cryptocurrency. Therefore, you're entitled to premium ownership, which is different from regular normal ownership.
And all this is while like they're like consuming so much like energy from computers. It's just
well, it's consuming energy and then outputting like heat and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's generally terrible.
Yeah, I haven't quite read into like what the actual tangible consequences are. But like you have all these computers running, consuming electricity needlessly, like lights on, heat going, that sort of thing. That's something you obviously need power for. You have your TV running, not quite so, but like TV running that's for like
like have you seen like a Bitcoin farm? Like it's just crazy the amount of like computers they have in like a single farm. It's just
yeah. Like there was one guy on Twitter who was posting about it. And he's like, yeah, I've got like 80 GPUs all hooked up to these computers, and they're all running and all at the same time. And so I think about it, it's like, wow, that would jack up my power bill so much.
It's like, is it really worth the money in returns? Like,
he got silenced. He got silenced.
I think they're listening into us. You get that?
They sent the Red Ape Hit Squad.
Okay.
That's funny. I was like, okay, but like, how much money? Like, and I say it's like when I look at like the operation costs of that, it's like, are the operating costs higher than your returns and how much crypto you actually get a year?
That's something worth looking into, I'd say.
And I feel like those margins are really similar. Like, oh yeah, you can mine crypto from your house. It's like, yeah, but it's gonna take you like 30 years and like 8 trillion watts of power.
I recall like there was like a Reddit post or a green text or something like that, right? Where someone had like 30 Bitcoin when Bitcoin was new and wasn't worth anything. Yeah, I have 30 Bitcoin. I like ran my computer overnight just to see what would happen. I got 30 Bitcoin, and then he let it sit in a wallet for like 10 years, and he came back to it. He had the 30 Bitcoin. It was like worth like $1 billion trillion or something, like some big number like that, because like he left his computer running for an hour back in the day. And I guess people are hooked on making like, I guess you could assert that there's like some sort of like gambling addiction mentality to it.
Possibly.
It's like, oh, I gotta run this computer for this long and I can get this much money from it. But at the same time, you're also spending money to get that going. You're waiting all this time for it for what is essentially like electricity running needlessly. Like you could, like I was saying earlier with like TVs and things like that, right? At least like with a TV, you enhance the quality of life for someone with the TV, or many people in a family, that sort of thing. Like games, PCs, like electronics, all these things enhance the quality of life. But like, you think about like a computer running an NFT farm, or rather crypto farm. Getting the abbreviation out of order, but like it's running essentially needlessly, right? You're producing something from it, but like it's an ambient thing that's taking up a lot of energy.
Yeah, like, it's almost like it's just like a sink of just, it's a power sink, it feels like. And yeah, there's assigned value to crypto, but like there's no like, you could say, oh, well, the money I get from crypto is like improving my quality of life. Like, yeah, but it's like, I don't know, it just feels like you're leaving a box that's making heat in your room compared to like a TV.
Right, yeah.
Or whatever. I get your point.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the statistics right now, and it says that a single Bitcoin transaction uses more electricity, about, let's see here, 1,810 kilowatts per hour. Which is like the equivalent of about 1 million Visa transactions.
It's like, okay, this would not be an issue if we had like nuclear power, or like if we had actual decent energy sources, but we don't.
Yeah, nuclear energy is still like
ways out.
Yeah. Actually, here in Malaysia, like just the idea of nuclear energy is still pretty like unheard of, really.
That's sad, because it's like we've made so many strides.
Yeah, because when people think of nuclear energy here, they think of
the big ones.
Yeah, like Chernobyl and what was it in the U.S.? Long Mile.
3 Mile Island.
It's like 3 Mile Island. It's seriously funny you all mentioned this, because I just last night I was watching a documentary on 3 Mile Island.
Nice.
Funny, yeah.
I was watching it's like something about like the ghosts of Fukushima, or after the whole.
I watched that video.
Yeah,
that's a
or after like the whole Fukushima Daiichi, like forget the pronunciation. Yeah. They're like everyone living in or around that area. They just like saw ghosts of people who like died in the whole like catastrophe. It's like whoa, that's.
I think it's like I think it's like a mental thing, because like they got the whole thing was just like pretty messed up.
It was such an extremely sudden change of life, like lifestyle.
It's like, a quiet town near the ocean, and then suddenly everything just goes to hell.
It's really interesting though. Not that I was at risk or anything, but I was actually at sea on a ferry,
really?
Yeah, like when the whole earthquake and the tidal waves and all that, we actually felt it while we were on the ferry. I remember like the winds were, well, it wasn't the winds, it was like the waves that were really rough. And it wasn't like a cruise ship or anything. Here in Alaska, we actually have like ferries that go from different port cities and stuff like that. You put your car on the ferry and they just travel around. You see like great sights and stuff like that. So it's not exactly like a luxury cruise ship kind of thing, but yeah, it was. They were like, hey everyone, you got to prepare for like some really rough waves. And then we woke up the next day and like heard everything and like what? I remember the news on TV about that.
Yeah, Fukushima was actually not too long ago. Now that I think about it, like it's still fresh in people's memories, and like, that kind of stuff just kind of gives people like a bad view of nuclear energy, and it's kind of sad. Because nuclear energy could really work like really well.
Ill-informed.
It's one of those things you have to be extremely careful with its implementation, and like with the administration and that sort of thing. Like there was an analogy I read that I don't remember now, but it basically was like, okay, in most things you have some room for error, but with machines and things like that, especially with like nuclear machines and things like that, there's no room for error, no room for any like slack or leeway. You have to be extremely precise.
Unforgiving. Yeah.
You have to be extremely precise and extremely on the nose with everything you do with that. Otherwise, you end up with things like Chernobyl, etc. There's actually one thing I read where it's like is the SL1 incident early in American nuclear history.
Yeah, that was over at the Santa Susana plant, right up in Simi Valley.
Something like that. Now, admittedly, this is all just from a YouTube video I watched last night, but it's worth noting because what happened in the SL1 incident was it was 3 technicians, right?
Yeah.
And one technician was like, his wife was like cheating on him or like threatening to divorce him, or there was like family troubles and he had depression and all that, so he wasn't really totally. I don't want to say he was like absent-minded, but he kind of was in this instance, and he was messing with like nuclear rods and stuff like that. I've written exactly what it was in particular that he was messing with, but it messed him up real bad. They actually and it was during the winter too. They had his body on a sled that they were transporting his body on like an actual pull sled through the snow to get him to the hospital.
Oh.
I very vaguely remember any of the details from it. It was only last night too, but I think another thing was like the Demon Core thing. So they had like
Demon Core,
which I don't quite remember the details of either. But basically, they let something touch for 2 seconds or so.
Yeah,
it irradiated like a whole bunch of people really badly.
Yeah, it was basically just mismanaged. It was a really cocky scientist who kept messing with the Demon Core with a screwdriver, and what do you know?
Yeah.
It kills them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like
they need to be highly trained, like professionals, to actually like manage like nuclear energy.
Right, and it's a similar story with aviation, where it's like these things take respect. You can't like miss anything on a checklist. And to be fair, nuclear power now has gotten very much safer, and especially with software safeguards and inherently safe designs. Like fission can be safe. It's just the public is traumatized from like, oh yeah, early nuclear reactors in the 50s through the 70s. Like, of course they're gonna suck. Science was like trying to figure them out.
So it's worth noting also that Fukushima Daiichi, I should just say Fukushima because I don't know if I'm gonna.
That's right.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, the Fukushima Daiichi, yeah.
That all happened because of natural disasters and stuff.
Yeah.
Earthquakes and a tsunami. Poor
urban planning, because like they put it right by the coast.
That too, yeah. That was part of it. But like they had planned for a really bad earthquake. They planned for really bad tides, and they planned for all these other eventualities, including like terrorist attacks and things like that. But they hadn't quite planned for like more of these things happening at the same time, right? Like some
it was an earthquake and a tsunami, and it just
like a freak like city skylines like Sim City like style disaster where just everything just happens all at once. It just piles on. Really terrible.
It's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So my hope is that they're better. I don't truly believe that.
But like
we're gonna get cheap and like publicly supported nuclear until fusion, just because people don't want to accept fission.
I feel like when fusion energy and that whole like thing they were doing, I think it was like in France. Was it France where they were like experimenting with fusion energy and they
with
like
ITER? ITER is like a European project.
Something like that. Yeah, like I feel like that's gonna have its own like 100 years into the future. By the point it'll get where nuclear is now, it'll have its own like degree of catastrophes and things like that. And I figure that's just like par for the course for any big like endeavor. It's like you're embarking on this like untested science. You're gonna have issues at some point. The best thing you can do is prepare for them and like treat them with respect, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I do wonder, like fusion seems very much inherently safer. Like the technology doesn't have the same volatility that fission does, based on like the stuff I've read and the people I've talked to that are in the field. The most I would imagine is like, like either some like coolant tank blows, or like it'd be a lot more conventional.
Right. Instead of like it'd be more localized than it would be like very far-reaching, like Chernobyl.
I love this conversation from like NFTs like spawned a new one, just like about nuclear energy.
It's really fun because we like did a fair amount of like study on NFTs, and we were like kind of hyping up like, hey, we should have like a flow chart about where we should like where and what we should talk about, and then we just like started talking about nuclear energy and like.
I mean, they're both good
I mean,
subjects, and
they're both kind of related in a really weird way because like they consume a lot of energy, and like that's what the main issue with it is. Like,
oh yeah, and like that's why I brought it up. Is it's like until we have really good like infrastructure, because it's not even just the generation of power. It's like our power distribution grid is so like archaic,
yeah,
and like these are all things that are fundamental. Because like as we move into an age where when we move into an age when stuff like the blockchain and a lot of digital transactions and a lot of the more dependency we have on networking, internet, and just things that run through cables, period,
hmm
that consume power, you need infrastructure to facilitate that, and to facilitate that even faster as things get faster. So,
Right.
like, all of these things are discussions that need to be had. It's like the power consumption on our old grid is going to eventually tap out. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you need infrastructure for this technology to keep going. Like just with
yeah.
crypto and all that. Like there's gonna come a point where the technology is gonna be like incomprehensible to us as a generation,
Right.
and like it's gonna require so much infrastructure that we don't know yet.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, you make a good point that at some point, like, energy production, like, might, I don't know, like, outpace the infrastructure for it, right?
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
we're hitting, I think, because like
Yeah.
you're already seeing it with how much like demand on the power grid, like crypto mines have.
Right.
I don't know. Even if the energy crisis is solved, I don't know if like NFTs are like viable. You know?
I
Yeah,
think
it's like,
they'll have like a peak in value, and they might sustain themselves. Like who knows? We can't really predict it.
it might be like this extremely, like, small and niche, like, society on the internet, but that, like, one that's, like, one of those things where it's, like, extremely profitable
Probably, yeah.
or viable. It's like, so you look on, if you look at Reddit, like, 5, maybe 7 years ago, right?
Mhm.
You didn't have the GME subreddit. You didn't have the Superstock subreddit. You didn't have any. You had barely any of these like subreddits sitting the front page
Yeah.
of Reddit that were talking about like stocks and trading and stuff like that. Now every like couple days you'll see like a big post from one of those like stock trading subreddits that hits the front page. It's like, oh, that's kind of a new
Yeah,
thing going
funny
on.
that you mentioned that because like only after like the whole like
Stop.
what was it, like the funny GameStop thing that happened like a year ago or something? When was that?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
year and a half ago, I want to say.
Oh,
Like
Has it
I don't
already
even
been
know.
that
But like
long?
my sense of time is just messed up over the past 2 years. It's
Completely
just
gone.
like
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, I've noticed that a lot of ads here in well, I don't know if it's just Malaysia because I keep getting ads from like Vietnam and stuff. So just in Southeast Asia in general, like there's been like back then we didn't get much ads about like stock trading, but now everyone's kind of like trying to jump in on that, and I keep seeing them like everywhere now.
Right.
Like any video, like there's always gonna be some like what's this thing called? Octa effects. That's like the local one, I think. It's like a trading app. Yeah, that kind of stuff is just unheard of back then,
Right.
and now it's like you just kind of see it everywhere. You know?
Right.
It's like
You know,
everyone, yeah.
the passage of time is like totally askew for me. I know it's like totally different, but I just figured that once COVID finally blows over, I feel like then it's gonna feel like a year has actually passed.
I
Even though like
know.
it'll have been like X amount of years since COVID started. Like once COVID's actually gone, it's like, oh yeah, this year's finally over, and you look at the calendar, it's like, oh, it's been like 20 years.
I'm on my
What?
final year, and it doesn't feel like a final year. It feels like I just started.
Yeah, this just it just
Ah.
feels like a very long year, even though it's been like what, like 2 years. COVID's been a thing now. What?
Yeah, it's just
Year and a half.
I don't know. It feels like I just lost so much time, and
Yeah.
it's really sad when I think about it. I just
Maybe it's that, or we're just like adults now.
I
It's
guess
like-
it's
I feel like
both.
that's
I
one
think it's
thing.
both.
Oh goodness.
It's such a painful thought.
Painful and like depressing too. Like not only does it hurt your heart, it hurts your head. It's like,
Your
oh, I
But
don't wanna...
like 2019 does not feel like it's been 3 years ago now.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
so excited for,
I forgot
I'm
to
so
mention
excited
Happy New Year.
for
Happy
New
New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I'm so excited for 2011,
Nothing really
guys.
felt like it changed. Oh, shut up.
Can you believe it? 2011, just a week away.
Just a week away.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good fact of the matter that you forgot to say New Year, and we were just talking about how time just seems so messed up.
It is.
That's a practical
It really is,
practical example.
Oh man,
Oh.
I just hope the whole NFT stuff doesn't end up in Steam or something. But I think Steam is
no.
I think they're actively against it. I hope so.
Yeah, what it really seems to me is it's going to be a craze that lots of people capitalize on, but don't really understand the depth of what they're doing or what the effects of it are for. Not quite the global effects, but the effects on how they're going to work with it. It's like, oh, what are the consequences of implementing NFTs into our game? Like that sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
Like take the new Stalker game, for example, where they announced they were going to put NFTs
they're
in.
they're trying to add NFTs to it, and
I think it was
much backlash.
Yeah, I think it was within the same day, I want to say, within the same 24, 40-hour period, they came out and said, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to do that. Actually, not going to happen." The backlash came so suddenly and so swiftly. It's like, yeah,
They
don't
probably
do that.
saw the Ubisoft. Wait, no, that was before the Ubisoft video, wasn't it? Or
Oh, was it?
I don't know.
Time just isn't even a thing anymore. It's just yeah, that happened at some
We
point.
live in the future and the past.
Yep.
It's like that one movie where the egg aliens, like the aliens came down with the giant egg ship thing, and everyone wanted to blow them up, but the one lady walked and she messed up gravity and walked up on it, and that whole thing.
I don't even know what movie you're talking about.
I want to say it was
Arrival?
Contact. What was it?
Arrival?
Yeah, it was Arrival, but for some reason people wanted to call it Contact.
Contact is a different movie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Whenever I think of aliens visiting Earth and us trying to talk to aliens, I just immediately think of Contact, which I've never even seen. Actually, no, I think I saw it when I was very little. I thought it was.
I need to watch more. I should have watched more movies during my free time. I didn't really watch much, honestly.
We had to watch Signs at some point because that movie scares the bejesus out of me.
Oh, I saw the clip of the news report scene, wasn't it? Is that what it was?
Oh yeah, where the bird hits the invisible ship and falls to the ground. That freaked me out so much when I was little.
I gotta watch that.
I genuinely was extremely close to believing that was actually happening. It was one of those things where if I woke up after having seen, I saw this when I was 7, right?
Yeah.
I had a feeling that tomorrow morning I'd wake up and see that exact same thing on the news, and I went to bed with my heart racing because I was so worried that was actually going to happen. There's no way to really quantify just how much I'm afraid of aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, they used to freak me out for the longest time. I never got out of that phase until I was 14, 15.
Of being scared of aliens?
Yeah, just aliens and just paranormal stuff like that.
Oh yeah, dude. I think part of it was growing up in the early internet with creepypastas and SCP and early cryptid stuff.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. You know what's funny is SCP's been around for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
I was just thinking about it.
Actually.
It's been almost a decade.
Yeah, I was thinking
a decade and a half.
In 2012.
Yeah.
2013. I remember seeing stuff on Minecraft websites when I was first using the internet. Oh, we have this SCP map for Minecraft. I was thinking, what is that? Isn't it a jump scare spooky game?
Didn't SCP start from some random posts on the X board on 4chan?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It was just someone just created a post about, I think 173 was the first one.
Mm.
They just gave a brief description, and I guess people were just freaked out about it.
Yeah.
It is a really freaky statue, though.
The entire X thread is just a giant LARP.
There's
some people who they talk about spooky stuff, but when the people who try to be serious, it's yeah, I saw that, it's spooky. It's yeah, that's a LARP. That's someone playing out a fantasy. That reminds me, there was something I saw this was a year ago. I saw it on the X thread or some thread like that, right? On image boards. Is it on 4chan or something on 8chan or something like that? What is it on?
What, the X board?
Yeah, isn't
It's
that
on it's on
4chan?
4chan, yeah.
I can't keep up with that whole image board stuff. It's like it seems so like
I
backwards and
don't. Yeah.
backwards like backwards like as in technicality. It's like
It's
can't you
really
guys
outdated,
update the
but
link?
they don't
Yeah,
want
can't you
to.
update the link?
They
Yeah,
don't
no,
want
I
to.
get the appeal for it, but at the same time, it's so hard on the eyes, at least for my standards. But anyhow, I was reading something on the export. It's like, oh yeah, I'm actually part of the Air Force, or it was NASA or something like that, some agency where they have like lots of space stuff, right? And he's saying, yeah, we've detected this this toroid shaped object, an object in orbit of Saturn, and it's receiving like a constant signal. And we looked at it, and it's changing its own shape, and we've been able to determine that it's somehow repairing itself, and that it's extraterrestrial in origin, and that it's going to do something crazy.
Doubtful.
And I was thinking, that's a crock of a horse manure there. But at the same time, I was kind of fascinated. I was like, oh, well, what if this is real? Well, I want to see how this story develops. It's kind of like
It is really intriguing, yeah. But it's like I don't know.
I was reading something where it's like it was a similar kind of thing. Where back when like the election happened in America, it's like yeah, there was like it was a post. It was on the I think it was on. It might have been on X. It wasn't on Poll. It was on some other thread where like there's like a decent chance of it being legit, right? To some degree, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was like what was it? Oh yeah. Trump's actually going to deploy the National Guard to round up all the troopers. It's going to happen. To round up all the protesters and stuff. It's going to happen on this date at this time. And I'm thinking, like, what is the point of announcing like the specific date and time of something when you either like you're completely convicted it's going to happen, but you have no sources for it, or it's not going to happen, but you're spreading up the hype for it.
Hysteria.
Like you're gonna look. It's going to create like hysteria, but like
it's not
when
even
it happens,
good hysteria.
Like,
it's like
yeah, like the Y2K thing is another good example. But like at least then you could say there would have been a tangible like.
I mean,
sort of,
it's
like,
slightly
consequence.
believable. It's like
Slightly believable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or like what is it? Like all the religious like doomsday guys who say, oh yeah, the world's gonna end on September 21st or 20 whenever or something, right? Like the whole 2012 thing. It's like, well,
yeah, that was so.
Point?
I remember all the YouTube videos back in the day where it's just like all these crusty JPEGs of videos of like the planet just like shattering. It's just
it's really comedic nowadays, and like that stuff is like meme material nowadays.
It's gotta be like a really elaborate joke to play on people.
I'm gonna be honest though about 2012. Like, has anybody really felt like alive since then?
I don't know.
Oh, I mean, you too, huh? You too, huh? Like,
yeah, bro.
I've been asking myself the same question for a long time now.
Man. It's just like everything just feels so dead past like 2012, at least for me.
I remember the last time I really felt alive was like, I don't know, it might have been 2012, might have been 2013, might have been around that whole craze, but I remember looking at like a giant puddle of water. It was in the middle of winter.
Oh wow, we're already almost at an hour.
We're overdue? We're over budget?
No, we're not. We still got time. Don't worry.
Over budget. Yeah, the last time I really feel like anything struck me as interesting was like I was looking at a puddle of water. And it was like a really huge puddle of water, and I was there with my cousin and a friend of ours. And I just remember like seeing everything reflecting off of this, essentially a giant mirror on the ground, and seeing the sky reflect and like all the stuff and just reflecting. It really struck me as like super interesting. I looked at it, I was like fascinated by it, but like it was like a really important moment for me. But I haven't had a moment since then. I realized I haven't really felt alive since then in a weird way. And this is getting really this is turning into a therapy session real quick.
Real quick.
It's the best part about a podcast. You can just like turn 180
topics,
and then jump off a ramp and then like get off the skyscraper. And like
then you do some like Tony Hawk stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we went from like NFTs to like nuclear energy to just like how life sucks after like 2012.
I'd say it's
true though. Homies really dropped Gangnam Style that died.
Yeah.
God.
Gangnam's like the last like send off.
Remember the Harlem Shake though?
Oh yeah, I guess the Harlem Shake thing was kind of.
That was a pretty good sequel. Not gonna lie.
That was a good sequel.
I remember like it was Filthy Frank that did the Harlem Shake at first.
Oh
He just,
yeah,
like,
that
did it-
that's such a messed up thought to think that Filthy Frank started it. Like,
yeah,
Yeah, like, that was-
that's Joji, the musician Joji for
oh
current
yeah,
viewers.
Yeah, for
a lot of
people, like,
people
born,
like here
like-
listen to Joji and they don't know that this guy used to be Filthy Frank or Pink
Yeah,
Guy,
this
whatever you
guy-
want to call him.
This guy used to eat like he would like just for the.
Cake.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. He
like,
used to like
literally, like,
he
you
shaved
guys, like,
he shaved his friend's hair, well, his head, and put the hair into a cake, and they all ate it just
to see
for
what-
laughs. They
just literally
televised
for
it.
shock value.
Well, not televised, put on YouTube. But
It's pretty
kind of-
nasty.
The
They had
internet
the-
was just a different time back then, man.
It was a wild wasteland, and like
miss
wasteland
it
in particular,
dearly.
like
I'm
waste.
surprised his videos are still up, like untouched.
Yeah. I'm grateful that they're all archived very like meticulously.
Yeah. I remember there was like one other YouTuber who uploaded like an hour after Filthy Frank. Or no, it wasn't an hour, it was like 2 days after Filthy Frank did the Harlem Shake thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, that's about the time it was starting to gain traction. And he was like saying, no, I created the Harlem Shake. What are you talking about? And I remember like 14-year-old me was like, no, you didn't. Look at the upload dates. No, you didn't. I was like a crusader back then.
Oh,
It was a
Lord.
different time, man.
Ugh.
Well,
I'd say now's about a fair time to.
yeah, it's actually already been 45 minutes. Perfect. Or about 45 minutes, I'd say.
Not that I want to
So
restrict this, but it's an
TLDR,
interesting-
please do not buy into the NFT craze.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely know what you're doing, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Why would you waste money on like a really ugly ape?
Yeah,
Or-
it's like
Like a crusty
got-
JPEG of like a rose.
I guess if you really like, I would say like really research into it, look at the pros and the cons.
Right.
Personally, my opinion, although not very heavily researched into it.
Yeah,
I've-
we are not like professionals in the cryptocurrency like business, so you have to
advised.
do your own research. But we're just giving you like the general opinion of what most people think.
yeah, I've done my reading of the headlines, but not the actual articles themselves. And I can tell you, I don't really like the idea of it, but I'm not gonna platform myself on that. I'm just gonna say I don't really know if I like this or not.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bit of reading on the articles, and it's just like their energy consumption, they're consumption heavy, and
Yeah, and you just
They're
I just
kind
look
of
at it and I
pointless.
shrug my shoulders. I'm like, what?
and I don't think we ever mentioned this when we were talking about NFTs, but people like to just some people just straight up like steal like artists like pictures and sell them as NFTs.
Oh yeah, that's another
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a whole thing we didn't even touch on.
Oh yeah, there was an artist. I just recently read this. There was a pretty big artist on I think it was DeviantArt, like, that online
Yeah.
platform, right? For like sharing art and stuff. He actually closed his entire DeviantArt portfolio because people kept stealing his stuff and publishing them as NFTs. He actually he basically stopped his entire career. Well, I guess not so much his career, but his hobby, or at least stopped publicly displaying his hobby because people kept stealing these stuff and putting them as NFTs. If I could remember the name, I'd name him for like the sake of
Right.
public research.
I'll actually just show it in post. Like the viewers are gonna be able to see who it is.
Oh yeah, I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it goes back to what I was saying earlier about like NFTs are supposed to be like giving artists more control, but it just ends up giving them less control.
Oh, it was Liam R. Sharp.
You
had
are
a-
sharp. Got it.
He drew a Minotaur, and it looks like a really
Oh,
good
yeah.
piece of work.
Oh,
And then
that
someone,
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I actually
in
used that
text,
for
yeah.
my presentation for one of my classes. Actually,
no kidding.
yeah.
Someone actually stole. Someone stole an NFT and sold it, and it's a picture of the Hulk beating up like a werewolf. Oh no, it's beating up another Marvel character. So they have actually like a Marvel thing they're reselling as an NFT.
Oh,
Not only that, it's like someone's work of art too, like someone's fan like work.
I can't wait for like the Chris Chan collection to get like minted as NFTs.
Oh Lord, that's a whole other can of worms too.
Yeah. The TLDR,
We will have to-
just please do not buy NFTs. And as I'm saying this, I just see Eminem buys a Bored Ape NFT. God damn it! It's just-
Oh Lord, you'll have to put the headline in that article in post too.
yeah. I'll show it on the screen right now. Actually, it's.
What a coincidence.
Anyways,
it's like how Dan like left the Discord. Now like Eminem's listening up to us. He's like listening in on this conversation.
Terrible.
the
Eminem
Eminem
is
agent.
secretly like research. The Eminem like advanced neural. I don't even know. I don't even joke. I'm too cooked.
Yeah,
The hive
I think
mind.
Just had a
my
beyond
brain just
word.
like melted just thinking about NFTs. Just like the concept of it is just no. I do not
It's
agree
just
with it.
terrible. I would get it if they looked cooler, but they made them purposefully ugly to like help market them, but through controversy and like, man,
Can't wait till they have
Some
like a
of
corporate
like the
art
cooler
style
looking
NFT.
NFTs are like
Oh yeah, there's like a mecha like Gundam looking one. I hope
there's
that was
some
kind of
good
cool.
looking ones, but like I still wouldn't do it just because it would make me feel like it just feels morally wrong, you know?
It's like a matter of practice.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I guess that's all we have for today because this is actually about to reach an hour,
Thanks for listening, bro.
which is actually one of the which is actually the second most voted time frame of for the podcast from the survey that we got actually.
Yeah.
So not too bad, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, I just want to yeah, thanks Dan for actually showing up.
yeah, man, I tried my best here.
Yeah, and Trevor, thank you as well because I actually didn't know how you would be incorporated into this. Is kind of I just kind of shoehorned you in. I honestly it worked really well.
Worked
that's
pretty
good.
good. Yeah, I got yours.
I aim to please here. Well,
Aim to
I've been
please.
your layman, Trevor. Can't even pronounce my own name. That adds to the authenticity.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for listening. Hope you have a good one. Happy New Year to those who are
New Year,
listening.
everybody.
And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next 2 weeks. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a bi-weekly thing. Before I forget to mention.
Right.
Yeah. So every 2 weeks, we'll release an episode about something. Yeah, we'll just think about it before we make them.
And we will see
Hopefully
you
hopefully my work doesn't get in the way. So
then.
yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening once again, and have a good one.
See you guys.